Staying busy, got a new pup. I
Got a
love
new
it.
pup. Yep, he's 3. But
Dude, I can't believe the similarities between your puppy and my dog. I was just like, I saw it and I was like, is that a twin of my dog? What the fuck is
that's too funny.
that? Yeah, yeah. How's everything going? Nice to chat again. I'm so glad you came back on the pod.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me again. Everything's been going good. I can't complain. Just continuing to put out deep dives and you know doing some research.
I love it. I just saw on your Twitter, you just hit 30,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I actually deleted like 2,500 a couple weeks ago too. So
Oh, did you? Wow,
yeah.
that's even better. That's even better. Wow, and you were, I think you were just probably a couple issues in last time we talked. So that's pretty tremendous growth right there. I think it's been what, like 6, 7 months or something like that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what's been the secret sauce there for you in terms of like the content, and how's the newsletter evolved and all that? Give me a little bit of insight of whatever you can. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I think the newsletter itself is probably very similar to what it was in the past. It hasn't changed like a ton. It's still the same format, same outline, and all that stuff. But I think it's just, as people share it with others and that kind of thing, it just continues to grow. That's definitely been one of the bigger ways it's grown is just by referrals and recommendations and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's going well.
That's awesome. Is it a
Yeah.
little bit overwhelming sometimes to look at that number and be like, damn, I'm just sending like 30,000 emails in this one click?
Yeah, I try not to think about it.
You're like, hide that fucking number.
Yeah. I actually used to say it at the top of my emails and I removed it because it was just like too much.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That's awesome though. Well, how has your just based on that? I mean, that's kind of what you started off with. Like, how has your entire sort of online business evolved from that? Are you getting? Is there like a bunch of sponsorships now? Like, tell me a little bit about like how that's grown over the past like 7 months now. Because I know you started doing, if I remember correctly, I think you started doing sponsorships and stuff pretty early on. But I'd love to know how that's all grown, and what's that done for your kind of your lifestyle. Are you like doing this full time now? Like, give me a little bit of backstory on that.
Yeah, so I have been doing sponsorships since pretty early on. I can't remember the exact number of subscribers, but it was over 1,000, which isn't huge, but it's enough. I think people start that way too late. But yeah, so I've been doing that ever since. It's still going well, still all inbound. I haven't done any outreach for sponsors or anything yet. So that's nice.
Yeah, hell
um,
yeah.
yeah, so that's one of the ways that I make money at this point. And then I started doing some coaching, which has been fun. And then I do audits for newsletters as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And what kind of coaching are you specifically doing at the moment? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What kind of coaching are you doing at the moment? Sorry, I think it might have cut out for a second.
Oh, that's okay. Just newsletter coaching. So helping people kind of go through their newsletter, their social presence, and kind of give them some advice on like how they can grow faster, or even just like little tips and tricks of like, hey, you're not really doing this, but it could probably really help your growth. Um, so that kind of thing, and then helping them continuously for about 30 days, and then they go off on their way, and it's been going well though.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what are some kind of, I guess, what are some of your coaching tips that you can maybe share on here for anybody that might be listening? Of a few kind of low hanging fruit, I guess, would be uh, probably wise to share at the moment. You don't need to go, you can go as deep as you want, but obviously don't want to spill all your secrets or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it does depend on like a specific newsletter, but I think a lot of the things people are doing are like on social, they'll throw a link in their post, and like you and I both know like that's going to kill your reach. So you're never going to get like a ton of people replying or even seeing your post if you throw a link in there. So it's always nice to do it after. But in the newsletter itself, it's just a matter of like they don't have a welcome email, or they're not setting up their email signature to be like include what they're talking about. So then when they reply to other people's emails, they don't know what they're talking about. It's
Oh,
it's little things like that. It gets very in the weeds, if you will, but yeah, there's not like a
That
silver bullet.
yeah. That's awesome. And how, when it comes to some of the deep dives that you've been doing, so just for anybody that might listen to this, is Chenell just basically goes into these creators, basically digs deep into their like online life, how they basically got into what they're doing, how they've been able to grow their newsletter or their social media presence or any kind of aspect of that, or all of it as one. Um, what's been sort of the one that stands out that's kind of just been like rippling for a little while that you like sent out and it just keeps kind of getting like either people are tagging you on social media or whatever else it is, like which one kind of stands out to you from all the ones, and how many have you done, I guess, is the first question.
That's a good question. I think I'm at 55. So I've been doing it a little over a year, but I took, a week here or there off just because life got crazy. But yeah, so I think I'm on number 54 or 55. I'll have to double check. But
Wow, that's impressive, by the way. I just want to tell you, like, that's absolutely huge.
oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess some of the ones that have kept coming back, definitely Justin Walsh. Everyone loved that one. I think his story is just really interesting, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, there's something that people resonate with there. The other one that's really interesting is Dan Nee from TLDR. It was one of the earlier ones I did, but his newsletter just like he kind of spends like minimal time creating it. It's a daily newsletter, but he has like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and like you don't even know who this guy is. So he's like really behind the scenes, but he doesn't like hide who he's not an anonymous person. But that one really resonates. I don't know. I think it's just like it's so simple that pretty much anyone could do it, but nobody will because it's
Yeah.
still a lot of work. But
There's yours that's super like in depth, which you spend hours and hours on, and then there's the ones that are super simple, and there's almost like this like thing where you can grow literally both ways. There's not one. You don't have to do these crazy in-depth things if you're not that person. Like I'm not that person. I would never go in and spend, I don't know, you said last time you spend anywhere between like 5 to 10 hours on some people, maybe even more, I think, like over a
mm-hmm.
span of time. Like that's absolutely like impressive to me. That's just not me though. But then there's people who do very simple things and yet they have this like crazy trajectory of growth and stuff like that. That's amazing. And that's like I feel like the newsletter thing is like you got to just kind of carve out your own little corner and just kind of keep going, and then at some point you just have a little bit of that breaking point, or you got to change things up if that doesn't fit you anymore. And I know I kind of went through that as well. So yeah, that's really awesome. So those are kind of the two that you feel like have been the most.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's always like a bunch of them here and there that people come back to, but those are the two main ones. But yeah, I like the Dan approach because it's like so he's an introvert through and through, which I totally resonate with. So he
Yeah.
does a lot of like technical hacks, like growth hacks of like trying to make his page speed faster or like get on the front of Hacker News. But like he's not like a Justin Welsh who's going to go on like 40, 50, 60 podcasts just to like get his brand out there. So
Yeah.
I think when I did that research, I found one podcast that he was on, and it was like
uh
that was it.
did
It
that
was
did that make
wild.
your did that make your job a little bit tougher in terms of like getting all the information that you need?
It's tougher, but in some ways it's almost easier because then I would just go deeper into Google and find like other things that he's done. Like he posted on Indie Hackers that I found, and he was kind of talking about his growth there. And then you just kind of have to go through and see exactly what these people did, like use the Wayback Machine and that kind of thing to go back in time
Yeah.
and see what their landing pages looked like or whatnot.
I almost literally see you like go into this thing where you put these like special glasses on and like you have a like this like robe that you put on and you're just like, it's time to get to work.
Like a hood.
Yeah. Like, do not disturb me. Like, doors are
Yeah.
closed for the next 5 hours. I'm just doing this research here. That's pretty. That's what I envision when I think about you doing these newsletters. It's pretty
I'll
awesome.
have to get like an Apple Vision Pro and just like stare at
Yeah.
everything.
Exactly. That's really awesome. Do you sort of have now like a format that you kind of follow for every single person that's kind of even maybe sped up the process for you, or has it just been sort of like, kind of going at it any way you see fit on that day?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a checklist and that kind of thing of like starting to research people. But as I go through and I learn something, I'll like, they always go in different directions. Like, there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
way to like just fully pick like a specific lane that you stay in the whole time. Because based on something you hear in a podcast, then you go research this other thing. And so it's just very different. But yeah, I definitely have like a process for starting and then also writing it as well. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah.
And are you doing this full time now? Are you still doing? I know you're running ads or something before that, right? Like you were for a company or something like that. Are you doing this full time now?
Yeah, I'm no longer doing ad client stuff. So this is kind of my main thing here.
Well, wow!
Yeah,
Congratulations. This is huge. A lot of
thanks.
people don't get to say that. I mean, what you've been at it for 10, 12 months, maybe? Like
Yeah,
in
I think
terms of like
13 at this point. Yeah.
Woo, congratulations. That's huge. That
Thanks.
deserves like a moment of silence because I think a lot of people don't like get to that point where they can, literally or they just don't want to, they don't feel a sense of security. But yeah, big congrats to you on that. That's huge.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, tell me how's everything else been? How's life? How's the dog? How are things going on your end? Everything good?
Everything's good. The dog is a handful. I'm learning what it's like to work in like 25-hour or 25-minute sprints of like,
Yeah, yeah,
oh no,
yeah,
he's asleep. Hurry up, do something.
yeah.
So that's been interesting because before I was just used to like sitting at the computer for like 6 hours and getting stuff done. And
Yeah,
now I'm like, oh no.
that's
But
awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's cool.
Yeah, and in terms of the coaching side of things, like was that something that people started requesting from you, or is it something that you just decided to give it a try and you're just like, all right, let's see who kind of contacts me?
Yeah, I mean, people have asked me for a long time, and I was always just like, no, no, because I don't know, imposter syndrome kind of thing kicks in, and you're like, oh, I'll just keep writing my newsletter. But eventually, I was like, you know what? I want to do this, and I want to eventually build like a community or a course around this. So having those coaching clients is helping me like stay sharp and like learn what people like get in the weeds of their business and see like what they really need help with. So
Hmm.
that's been insightful. So I really like it from that standpoint too.
That's awesome. How are
Yeah.
you kind of diversifying sort of these, your business at the moment? Like, is it coaching and sponsorships only? You just mentioned the course. Like, what else are you doing to kind of tap into some different like revenue streams and to like find things not only that make you money, but also give you a little bit of that like satisfaction and kind of feeds into what you're already doing?
Yeah, so I've been toying with the idea of a course for a long time, and it's just I keep going to a point of like I don't feel like it's quality enough, and I'm not
Hmm.
someone who's just going to put something out that's like, well, here's my 10 tips for growing a newsletter. Like I want it to actually be valuable and good, so I keep hesitating with that. But I think the coaching is helping me kind of like break through some of that and see exactly what people need help with. But yeah, so mostly sponsorships. I just keep writing my newsletter. And then the coaching has been great to kind of like offset some of the client revenue that I lost when I stopped
Right.
doing clients. But actually, yeah, I'm going to start helping another business with their newsletter. So that's kind of like also like consulting type thing, but not paid ads. It's more like what I'm doing now. So
Oh, that's
it's
awesome. And is it most of that stuff going like helping businesses, or is it just also creators as well? Or is it both?
yeah. So this one new consulting thing is just one company that I'm going to be helping. So yeah, it's
That's
exciting.
awesome. That's really awesome. No, I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I love how much you've kind of grown and diversified, and you're still getting bro DMs in your on
I
Twitter.
am still getting bro DMs, if not more of
Oh my
them.
god, what's been the level of bro DMs at the moment? Because this was a really funny topic that you keep bringing up on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck people want to call it nowadays.
Yeah.
What's been the level there? Like, what's some of the funniest ones that you've gotten? Because I think that was probably the highlight of our conversation last time.
Yeah, I mean it's still all the same. Just like, hey bro, love what you're doing, love the shit you're doing. Thanks,
Do you need help with
bro.
your newsletter? Like,
Yeah, right. Do you send emails on a weekly basis? I'm like, you clearly have no idea what I'm doing.
That's hilarious. That's
If they're like, do you need
hilarious.
me to send your emails for you? I'm like, no. think
I
so.
think I could do
Yeah.
that. That's awesome. Well, I
Yeah.
did want to ask you really quickly. You mentioned that Dan, I think his name was Dan. You mentioned he sends his like emails on a daily basis. I'm curious to know, based on kind of the people that you've researched and then did these deep dives on in your newsletter, what I guess, is there something that stands out between somebody doing a daily newsletter, a weekly, and then like a monthly in terms of like growth, depth? Like what, like have you seen anything that you can kind of see a pattern in terms of like what's going on there? Because I feel like, if I'm being very honest, daily to me just seems like too much, and on the receiving end, I'm not a big fan of it, if I'm being honest. But
Hmm.
weekly, I think is manageable. Monthly is kind of, you have this like, you kind of have this expectation of like, oh, it's going to be like deep, like into some like topic or whatever else it is. Like,
Yeah.
have you noticed any kind of patterns there that you notice, like in terms of even like correlating it to growth or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the daily stuff, it's more news focused. So if you
Oh,
were going to
okay.
do a daily thing, it's probably a good idea to like hire a writer because otherwise it's going to be a full-time job for you, just like
Right.
creating the content. You'd think like a morning brew or like this TLDR one I was talking about is more like tech focused, but it's still news and that kind of thing. So it's like, timely content. Whereas something like what I do every week is less timely. And it's not fully evergreen because all the numbers change and that kind of thing, but it's more evergreen than like a news story is. Um, yeah. And then monthly, like you better be on James Clear level if you're expecting people to remember who you are after a month of not sending anything. So the
Right,
content
right,
better be really good.
right. Do you have anyone that you've done a deep dive on that does like a monthly and is doing really well?
I haven't done a deep dive yet.
Okay.
There is someone, her name's Lynn Alden. She's like
Okay.
super investing crypto money type focus. Not all crypto, but she talks about it.
Okay.
And hers, I think it's monthly, but it's like insane the number of subscribers she has.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Where do you kind of see, as you're working through this? Where do you kind of see newsletters? Like, what's the next, or what's your sense? You're so deep into this. Like, I feel like you have a very good like pulse on this sort of market. Like, what do you think the next evolution of newsletters is? Because I feel like everyone now has a newsletter. If you're online creating, you have a newsletter. If you're a business, you should probably have one if you don't already. Like, there's a little bit of an oversaturation of newsletters at this point. I feel like there's there's kind of this like breaking point. It's like where just people start, I mean, I unsubscribe from newsletters on a weekly basis at this point, because I'm like subscribing and I'm like, let me get a few issues, not my thing, I unsubscribe. Like, what's the next phase or like prediction, what you from your side?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're just going to have to get better. Like, I think the days of like putting out just anything and everything and getting tens of thousands of subscribers is going to be like gone, and like it better
Yeah,
actually be valuable, otherwise people are going to unsubscribe just like you said. So I think that's going to be like the quality is just going to have to keep getting better, and or some different insight, or be entertaining that kind of
yeah,
thing. So I think that's one of the main things. Because if you think about it, like there are thousands of YouTubers who have like millions of followers, but they don't have an email newsletter. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like
right, right.
that's a huge service opportunity of some like a business right there, is like finding these YouTubers and creating newsletters for them. And my friend Matt is kind of working on something like this, but I think there's just so much opportunity in that space. But again, that's going to add more emails to the fire, if you will.
Hmm.
So you're going to have to figure out a way to do something more unique.
Yeah, 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 it's pretty crazy to think about it. Like, I almost think that there's going to be kind of involvement of like content too, where people are going to start sending like almost like personal, almost like this conversation in an email, so people can literally like listen or watch what's in the email versus having to click out to YouTube or do anything like that. Like, I'm just curious. My mind always kind of spins when I see this. Even like you mentioned something with the growth. I think we saw that happen on like X and Twitter before Twitter was X or whatever. Is like there's this like influx of growth through threads, and everybody was just writing and all this other stuff, and then it just slowly like one little change happened, and it just kind of tanked. And now we have long form posts. Now we have like you said, the links, like you don't want to do certain things because whatever. Anyway, so it's just one of these things where I feel like, where can you, I mean, I'm just maybe not seeing the picture, but like, where the fuck do newsletters go? Like, it still has to get into someone's inbox. Like, is it going to be like notifications coming to your phone as a SMS text message, like, hey, Chenell sent out her newsletter, like, go here type of thing? Like, I don't know, but it's always like, I'm a little flabbergasted by the amount of people that are writing newsletters, and I know how many people are, I think the average person has like 15 subscriptions to a newsletter. I'm just like, whoa, how do, that's a consumption of time right there. Like, that's crazy
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's the same thing with podcasts. Like everyone has a podcast now, right? So
Yep. Yep.
it's almost like if you're going to find your people, and like you might have a lower number of subscribers at the end of the day, but you'll be able to make more money, I think, if you like find that audience who really enjoys like what you have to say and your voice and that kind of thing. So I think it's just it's gonna go the way it's been going. Like email's been around for tens of years now. So like
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
going anywhere, especially because businesses use email like all the time. I don't think it's going to
Right.
go away, but
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And are you for, you do a lot of research and different things, like how and are you at all using AI to kind of help you consolidate information or anything like that? Like, are you using any of the tools out there that just sort of, hey, I just did like this first rough draft, like give me a summary. Do you do anything like that for your newsletter?
I've tried. It just never comes out the way I want it to. So no, I use it for certain things. Like I'll find stats and I ask like Chat GPT to put it in like a different order, like order it by the date or whatnot. So then I don't have to do that. So that saves me like a couple minutes. And then if I have like a headline or something that I want to try and rewrite or come up with a different idea around, I'll ask it to rewrite it. And I almost never use what it says, but it gives me a different like way to look at it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can
Yes.
totally take that angle instead. So it
Yeah.
is helpful. It's just not like the end all be all.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you go about, I mean, some of the people that you even mentioned, like Dan, and you said Lynn something, like, how do you go about finding some of these people that probably a lot of other people don't know about? Like in the crypto space, I know like crypto had this like influx and then it just kind of dropped off a little bit. And like how do you go about finding who you're going to spend all that time on? And I guess my follow-up question to that would be, how many times have you gone after something and you just kind of be like, this is not as interesting as I thought it would be. I'm just going to kind of put this to the side until, further notice type of thing.
Yeah, I do that probably every other week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I'll go into someone's story and I'm like, there was either way too much content for me to get through that week because, like I procrastinated and started my research on a Wednesday or something.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to finish. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll go through someone's story and I'm like, I can't find the angle or how they grew it or what's relatable for the audience. So like, there have been definitely times where I've actually stopped doing research. I've actually started doing research on Lynn Alden and I just can't find like the growth angle aside from like having the most in-depth content. And it's like, that's not really going to help anyone.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
if I can't find like a good relatable thing for my audience to follow, like I'll just scrap it for another time.
And at what point do you just, like you said, you started on Wednesday. What days do you send out your newsletter, on the weekends?
Sunday, yeah. I
Sundays.
usually try and start doing research on Monday. Like I'll try and spend
Okay.
Monday and try and figure out who I'm going to do research for that week. I don't have like a content calendar or anything set up. It's more just like intuition of that week. But so yeah, so I'll start Monday. Sometimes I do really well and I'm like almost ready to start writing on like a Tuesday or Wednesday. I never do
Okay.
that, but sometimes I'm usually ready to start. Um, but yeah, most weeks I don't finish the deep dive until like Sunday, 10 minutes before I send the email. So it's not the
At
most
what
like
point
productive schedule, but
at what point do you just like change gears to be like, oh, it's Wednesday and I can't find what I'm looking for in this. I need to find somebody else completely. And then like, have you kind of caught yourself where you go two in a row where you're just like, I can't find angle for this one either. Like, I need to find
yeah,
a third person type of thing.
yeah, for sure. it's a it's like organized chaos, if you will.
Yeah.
If someone saw
Yeah.
like what I do on a daily basis, they'd be like, wow. Yeah.
But it's working though. I mean, what
It's
you're doing
working.
is awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. And how did you
Thanks.
I guess let's go back to the beginning. Like, how did you come up with this sort of idea of like doing this type of newsletter? Because I don't think there are too many out there that are, you know, doing this sort of deep dive and this whole thing. Like, how did this idea come about? Is this something you know, you truly enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis, is doing like a lot of research, or like how did this whole idea just kind of spring on? Did you think that you would be able to sustain it for this long is the other question.
No, because everything else that I've like wanted to start doing in business, like I do it for, I don't know, 6 weeks and then I get really excited about it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done.
You have that thing. I have that same thing. I have that same thing.
It's so bad. So yeah, so when I started doing this, my wife was like, okay, you're excited now. Sure. Let's see how far this really goes. But yeah, so I started out because I found Mario Gabrielli of the Generalist, and he was making like 300 grand a year from his newsletter by himself after one
Okay.
year of doing it. And I was like, okay, there's something here. So then I started doing the research to figure out like, how did this guy grow? And there was no like one place that kind of shared the story. So it was like a podcast here talked about this one thing, and then, you know, his other post over here talked about another thing. And I was like, why does nobody have this like in one spot? Like create, you know, essentially a blog post about how this guy grew his newsletter. So then I created that, and I was like, well, let's see if anybody else wants to read this. And so I just started sending it out, and the response has been crazy.
That's
So
amazing. That's
yeah.
amazing. What's your I mean, I don't know how much you keep track of this, but like I'm guessing you do. What's your growth kind of month to month in terms of like subscribers? Like are you how many subscribers do you get per month roughly at this point? Like at what point did you see the number just go like that chart just go skyrocket? Was there a month that you're just like, what the fuck just happened?
Oh, I think you froze.
And,
Sorry.
oh, I think
um,
yeah, go ahead.
okay. I think with the newsletter, like it kind of from the beginning just started growing a lot faster than I anticipated. Like I got really lucky in that Jay Klaus, I was in his little membership group, and he found out about the newsletter and he was like, this is awesome. And he shared it with his people. So I got like, I don't know, 50 subscribers in 2 weeks or something. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And then the people that he had referred, you know, like the readers just started referring other people to the newsletter. So the growth happened like a lot faster than I thought it was going to. But yeah, it's really been, you know, I call it the introvert's guide to networking, is like create the best piece of content and then everybody else will share it for you and you don't have to like talk by yourself and share it. So that's like my growth hack, is just like create the best piece of content.
That's amazing. It's like introverted marketing. I love
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. Yeah, it's just I think this whole like writing online, and I remember when you started sharing stuff, and I just literally like saw something. I was like, this would be really cool to like just chat with her. But it's so funny because like I didn't know if you had ever been on a podcast or anything else. It's just for me, it's just like reach out, see who wants to jump on. Like I just want to share people's like story, and the fact that you're back for the second time, you've had this like tremendous growth. And truthfully speaking, like I don't know how many people I've had for a second time, maybe two or three, that you can just see the like first sort of episode, second episode, and they're just like in a different, you know, like universe basically at this point, you know. So it's really really impressive, Chenell, and I just want to give you the flowers, because I think it's just it just it's a testament to the consistency of like what you've been doing and the work you're doing is just like sitting here and being like, AI, write this fucking thing for me and like send it out and hopefully like people fucking love it. It's not that. It's really cool, and there's a lot to learn from it too. And I think everyone always wants, you know, the growth hack to growing something, but ideally you just got to end up doing the work. And like you said, your growth hack is that people love your work and they just continue to share it, and that means like technically you don't have to do as much marketing because all the marketing is already in the content that you're putting out, and people are just loving it and sharing it out. So that's really really awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been, that's the growth hack, is just do good stuff.
Oh, you
But
froze for a second
obviously there's
too.
other ways you can grow, but I think that's really the key, like foundational piece to it all.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. but yeah, what's next on the horizon for you in terms of like, your workload and, everything that you're doing? You have any other plans of, I mean, I know you mentioned the course a little bit, but is there anything else that's like kind of spinning in your mind right now that's you sort of built this audience and you can kind of, nurture this into whatever you want? Do you see yourself starting like another newsletter at some point and seeing like, something there? Like, do you have any future plans?
Yeah, I think I would love to start another newsletter. I don't think that will happen because I don't have the time. But
Yeah.
I've thought about doing like a secretive newsletter just to like test out some of the other growth stuff that I've learned and be like, hey, this actually works. Like,
Like
um,
under like an alias or something.
yeah,
That would be sick. That would be
yeah.
sick. I think you should do it. I think you should fucking do it.
I've thought about it a lot, but I'm like, oh man. But then I'm like splitting my focus in so many directions. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I do want to start doing like audio versions of the deep dives. I've been asked a lot to do that. And I think I need to just finally sit down and do it. I did it once and then I stopped doing it because it was a lot of work.
Yeah. You mean
Yeah.
sitting just like this in front of the camera and like reading it, or doing like actual like videos and stuff like that, like
I
animated
mean,
videos?
I would love to do a video of like me talking through, like even just walking through the deep dive and like showing the screenshots and like all this stuff. But I think that's just like level 3. And if I can just get to like, audio is like level 2 and then I can do that later. But it's hard for me to grasp like sitting down and recording audio if there's not a video component. But I think that's
Right,
the
right.
easiest next step just to get myself used to it.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
little podcast on the side just where you can even just talk to the people that you've like, done the deep dive on. I think that would be a good little layer, if you ever decide to do that, just a different layer to be like, hey, like what? And I mean, I guess let me ask you, do you connect with the people before you send this out and just be like, hey, like I'm posting this about you. Do you want to check anything? Or do you kind of go through a process of like, I'm just going to put this out there, and if they come back with anything, I can always change it?
Yeah, I just put it out there. I don't connect with them and ask them questions. I found that like doing deep dives on people I know makes me do it like I'm worse at it because I'm like I really want this to be good. So like I try not to connect with the people beforehand.
Okay.
That sounds weird, but it just I don't know. So
No,
like
it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense, actually.
yeah, because I don't want to do a bad job and then I'm like oh like what if I don't know. Anyway, so I
There's
prefer
a
if
different
like
like emotional feeling almost there.
yeah,
That's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I see
it's
what
like
you
oh
mean.
they're
I
a
see.
real person. Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So I've had people reach out afterwards and they're like, this is awesome. Great job. Like 95% of it was right. And like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So I've had like one person say I should change something just because they didn't want that out there, but that was it.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not too big of a deal. Yeah, I think if you ever think about like an audio or video component, it would be really cool if you can get that person on and like kind of like go through the deep dive, but like more in like have them tell their story based on like the information that you have type of thing. Like I feel like there's something there that could be really cool and engaging for people.
I think so too. And so like Ed from Film Booth, I don't know if you know him. He's like a YouTuber. He has
I
this.
don't think I know. Yeah.
Okay. So he's a YouTuber first and he started a newsletter and he's been doing these audio versions. And I reached out to him and I was like, this is awesome. Like, how is this performing? Like, are you enjoying this? And he said, yeah, it's going really well. And like in one of his most recent issues, he mentioned that like those people are more engaged than the regular readers because I think they're actually like,
Mm,
listening to the whole thing. Whereas with reading it, you can kind of skim it and that kind of thing. So that kind of like pushed me. I was like, I need to do this. Like he
yeah.
sent that out
Yeah.
last week and I was like, all right, fine.
Yeah, no,
Fine.
that makes sense. And what's if you can share like what's kind of one of the crazier things where maybe somebody, I don't know, started a newsletter, didn't really have anything going on for them, just kept kind of writing and built out an entire business, or vice versa, where somebody had like a business, never cared to write a newsletter, and then when they started writing their newsletter, it just took like a whole different like trajectory in their career. Do you have any examples of either of those cases where you just saw somebody be like, oh, they were just posting stupid videos on YouTube, and then they decided to write a newsletter, and now all of a sudden they just have like this astronomical growth?
I mean, I think you could look at almost any business that does that, and they will probably tell you that, 80% of their revenue comes from email just because you're getting in front of those people. Where with YouTube, like if the person logs into YouTube consistently, they might see your video in their home feed.
Hmm.
Whereas with email, it's like most people are logging into their email pretty regularly. And so, you have a little bit closer channel for access to them. And I think you just have like a more intimate relationship with that person if you're on their email list and that kind of thing. So I would say probably almost everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just because I know that there's been like I think Ali Abdal talked about it in some podcasts where he was just focused more so on like the videos and getting those down, and then all of a sudden he was like, "Hey, I'm probably planning on writing a book or putting like a course together." Then he started the newsletter. That way he can get capture that audience a little bit more, because I mean the YouTube algorithm I think is pretty fucking crazy. Like even if I'm watching somebody's channel, they give me completely different stuff on the side. They're not saying like you might also like this from this person or you might like this. So yeah, you're right. It's probably one of those things where people just realize like I don't have any retention here, and so I need to build something that's a little bit more feasible for an everyday person to come like just know about me, read about me, or do something like that.
Yeah. And I think, social and YouTube and that kind of thing, like it's important. It's not something you can just like write off. I think you need
Right.
all of those pieces, but email is like the foundational piece of like, all right, if you really want to make some sales here, like get their email address because then you can continue to talk to them and engage with them. No
Yeah,
matter if
absolutely.
Elon comes in and changes everything, like you still have your path to get there. So
Right. Exactly. No, that's really awesome. Cool. Well, Chanel, I don't know if I have anything else you want to chat about, anything that stands out. I know we talked quite a bit about like newsletters and everything you've been doing, but is there anything else you want to tap into? Anything that's interesting out there that you're like, what the fuck is going on over here type of thing?
just your dog.
Just my dog. She's sprawled out. Let me give you a preview of what she looks like right now.
Oh,
Yeah, she's just
that's cute.
sprawled out. Yeah, my
That's cute.
I'm redoing my whole entire like studio thing here, so I've literally nothing. Like I literally have like a relax sign in the back that's just like chilling there. But my whole
Don't
goal is
forget to
just
relax.
to don't forget to relax. Yeah, this was a guest bedroom in our house, so I'm turning it into a little bit of a studio slash workspace type thing. I refuse to call it a fucking office because I don't want to be in an office.
Yeah.
So I decided to change it up, and I have like this lighting and shit that I want to do. So
Are you
you
doing
look like you
videos
got
and
a
stuff?
no, I'm not doing actual like just a podcast. So I'm kind of been working um, in more like spurts. I'm doing like seasonal stuff. So I'm doing 10 episodes, releasing it all at once, like kind of like Netflix style, and then working on the next 10, releasing it, or five, it doesn't matter. Like more so batching it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am doing everything myself, it gives me a little bit more time to kind of like put things together, create all the clips, schedule everything out properly, and then just like put it out there until I'm literally in the process of like doing all of this, setting up all of my like systems, like making sure that things are, like Zapier, make sure like when I record this and I hit this, like create folders, create everything so I can just drop files in there, and then like this whole thing. So I'm
That's
literally in the
fun.
process. Yeah, that stuff can be fun, but then you start overthinking it and you're just like, how do I make it even easier? Just like, no, dude, just chill. Just this is
Yeah.
fine. This
And then
works
one
right
thing
now.
breaks and you're like, oh no, the whole
Yeah, now
thing's
I
not
got
working.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I literally went through. I created like 10 folders the other day, and something was like not naming it correctly, and I had to like wipe out all 10 folders and go back and do it
Oh
all over again.
man.
So, anyways, but yeah, I'm just focusing on the podcast a little bit more now. Kind of got last year was kind of crazy, so I just was like after the new year, like I felt that energy again, and I was like, let me reach out to a few people that want to jump on or that I haven't
Nice.
talked to, or and kind of go from there. But you look like you got an awesome setup at your house too. Did you just like redo all that too?
I'm working on it. Yeah. Trying. I need to get the lighting better, but and then like hide
No, it
this
looks
like
great.
cord thing, but
Yeah, it looks great. I can't even see that. It looks like there's a little bit of a blur. Like it's awesome. It looks
thank
awesome.
you. Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
You guys just recently moved too, right?
Yeah, in October. So it's been a few months now. I'm finally settling in.
Where are you based out of now, if I may ask you, if you want
It's
to
outside
share?
of
If
like Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. It's
okay,
like probably
okay,
an hour outside of Philly. Yeah.
okay, cool. And you were
Yeah.
before that. You were where?
In Wilmington, Delaware. So probably
Oh, okay.
30 minutes outside of Philadelphia. But
Wow, what a
yeah.
change.
Yeah, closer to family. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Good, good, good. And now that
yeah,
you're full blown like doing things on your own time, it's like you can fucking do it anywhere. It's awesome.
exactly.
That's awesome. Cool. All right, awesome. Well, this was fun. It was fun to chat with you again, Chanel. Tell people where, they can subscribe, where they can link up with you and anything else.
Yeah, growthinreverse.com is where the newsletter, you can sign up there. And then I'm on Twitter at Chenell CO.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Chanel, for jumping.